Հիմա ուզում ես որ ես խոսամ, հա, սենց։ Հիմա ինքան ասեմ ինքը մի բան ասի։ Տիգրան ջան, դու ընտեղ ես։ Հա, լսում եք իրան։ Ինքը խոսեց արդեն, բայց ինքը նա երևի պետք է մենք աուդիոն տանք այս USB sound device-ին, speaker-ն էլ, microphone-ն էլ, չէ։ Չէ, USB։ Ահա։ Չէ։ Հիմա լսում եք։
Ահա, լսում եմ։
Ահա։ Հիմա ձեզ ամբողջ ժողովուրդն է լսում Տիգրան ջան։
Good։
Եղավ։ Լավ, ուրեմն ես կարամ։ Всё, աշխատեց։ Բանա, հրաշքա, այնտեղ սարմա։ Այնտեղ խոսում ես, այնտեղ լսում ես, հրաշքա։ Ալո։ Լսվում է։ Ոնց որ թե ստացվում է։ Բան լսում եք։ Ոչ մի բան չի գալիս։
Մեկ։ Էդի զումից է գալի, այս միկրոֆոնը չի գալի։ Մեկ։ Էսի կա հիմա։ Չէ, քո սրա վրա նկատի ունեմ չի գալի սիգնալ։ Մեկ։ Չէ, ստեղ вообще չի գալի։ Սիկա հիմա այ որը։ Ինչա պատասխան։ Ալա աշկիս ես իմ մոտի շեմ լսում, լայվից եմ լսում ձենը։ Նորմալ ուշ ասում, խոսում ես ուշ ասում, լայվ էթում եմ լսում ձենը։ Էս սարքով։ Հիմա նայ երկուս եմ ասում, եթե երկուսս լսում եմ։ Երկու։
Ով եք տվել դիցինալ շեք 25-ի է տվել թե պիկ կարա գայով աշխատեք դրանից է
Քեզ բաղված է։
Այկո
Մեկ, երկու, երեք։ Կար, հա։
ոնց գիտեք, բայց նա բզբզած է ժամանակը եկել։ Ինտերնետ է, հա։
Մեկ, երկու, երեք։ Մեկ, երկու, երեք։ Էսի ես շատ կամաց հիմա խոսում եմ, էլի նորմալ գալիս է սենց, հա։
եկել ենք բարձր։ Ես ամոն գեմ։ Ասենք գանում ծանոթ։ Դրանք էսպանին ասեն Сейчас грянцевая, сейчас грянцевая.
Այդ տիպի մի հատ կալարի շերբերը։
I can help us mission.
Լինելու է, կարած ֆուտը 10, որ մարդիկ տենան իրանց։ Hi Tigran. Can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're going to start in 3 minutes, so we would like to ask everybody to come and be seated so that we can start.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining.
It's such an early hour in the cold. Thank you for withering that. I am actually going to start, so I would like to ask everybody else to start joining in and sitting down so that we can get going. We have a very long program for everybody. I'll first start off with the agenda so that people know what to expect, and we'll go into it. At the very beginning, the first half of the day, to about 1 p.m., we're going to have several panel discussions with a few guests and with really, really great moderators. Thank you for joining us and doing that for us. And then
the second half of the day, we're going to have everybody be able to go and network and look at all of the startup showcases that are in the back of this space. And then in parallel, there will be 3 deeper dive discussions in the room behind me, where you'll be able to go and participate in those discussions as well. During the discussions, both on the stage and behind in the separate room, you're able to actually ask your questions through Pigeonhole, which is an application that we have put in place. Moderators will be able to choose some of the questions that come in and actually incorporate them into the discussion. And any questions we don't get to, we will use as food for thought to then follow up with the follow-up events and discussions that we'll do more remotely throughout the year and next year as well. At this time, I would really like to ask everybody
from the showcase places, everybody from the coffee and tea area, everybody to come and sit down in the next 1 minute so that we can get started. I know a lot of people here, so I might start calling by name.
Stop being a bully, Narcissus.
I really would appreciate Gev, Artyom, Artavaz, please get your teams, everybody to the chairs. Armen. We really want to have quiet so that our speakers can have as much time and space and be able to really enjoy this discussion. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. My name. I just realized I don't even have my. All right. Everybody on the live stream, by the way, thank you so much for joining us. We really hope everybody could be in the one place at one time, but due to the circumstances, we try to make it possible for everybody to participate. So we're going to have a lot of discussions for you too. For people on live stream, you can also participate in the discussions and actually submit your questions for the moderators to use. So really, really looking forward to that as well. So my name is Nesta Sohanyan, and welcome to HyeTech Showcase 2021 Talent Matters Startup Networking Conference here in Yerevan, Armenia. HyeTech is a community of entrepreneurs, technologists that started in the Armenian tech network of Silicon Valley and then expanded out to Armenia, Asia Pacific, Europe, and over the last 10 years, we have been growing this wonderful community from the initial size of about 50 people to now in the hundreds and who are located globally around the world. Our mission really is to enable our community members to achieve what their vision and mission is. There's startups in our ecosystem who have great ambitions to change the world, and our goal is to enable them in that path, to accelerate their path, to allow them to share their knowledge, to allow them to utilize the network that we have, to leverage the network that we have globally to make that vision possible. And really, we want to be the global network that allows the world to be a much better place to live and world. And we think the Armenian Tech Network has unique advantage in helping any entrepreneur globally, Armenian or otherwise, utilize the network to actually make impact, and we are here to do that. And obviously, here being in Armenia, really excited to work with the entrepreneurs and the talent here to achieve that goal as well. And that's really why we're so excited to have so much international talent traveling here this year, especially one of our guest speakers, Pawan Chanandra Kumar, for joining us from Hyderabad, India, CEO and founder of Skyroot Aerospace, an aerospace company out of India, because we really want to be enablers of any company anywhere, and so we're really excited to have you come here and have you share your experiences with us and continue to grow this community. So really what I'm trying to say is welcome to the community, welcome everybody to the community. We hope that you take value from it and enjoy being part of it. The showcase itself has always been a very special event for HyeTech. In 2011 was our first, 2015 was our second, both hosted in Berkeley, California, where the goal has always been for our community to showcase what it's working on, showcase its successes, and share how it is that they've done it with the rest of the community so everybody in the community can benefit from the experiences that we all have. And because our goal of HyeTech is to help our startup ecosystem accelerate, we've looked at what are the core problems, what are the core areas that we as an organization want to focus on, And we see unequivocally those two to be really focusing on talent and focusing on connecting our network to the global network, the global tech ecosystem, and making that an easier path for everybody in our community. As such, we've chosen to do HyeTech Showcase 2011 in Armenia because there's incredible growth here in the organizations that are part of our community who are both based outside of Armenia and have presence here, or all have business relationships with a network here. And a great deal of talent is developing here, scaling, and working to connect with the rest of the world. So consider HyeTech Showcase moving forward our annual meeting of the community, which we'll hold in Armenia, and then we'll continue to holding other networking and showcases around the world for our entire community. So we're really, really excited to have everybody here today, to have everybody join in and participate. Especially thankful to all our sponsors. We have 30+ sponsors who have joined us to show their support. Almost every sponsor is a company that was founded or scaled by a member of our community. And this really shows the commitment they have to this community, the commitment they have to this vision, and the support that they're willing to give to each other. Today, we've really gathered not only entrepreneurs, but we've gathered the core teams of about 43 companies here today so that we can all network across all these organizations because we are all one community, the founders, the teams, and the visions themselves. And we really hope that a lot of the knowledge sharing across teams is going to help spread a lot of the information that we've amassed over the last 5 to 10 years. A few things that really stood out to me when we were organizing this is that there are 43 startups showcasing today that manage teams, have presence in 27 countries today. That means this community already is a global community. The teams here span from Singapore to Spain to Switzerland to India, US, Russia, and Armenia. And that number continues to grow. And what we want to do is really take what already exists and help accelerate it. And what we're looking for from our speakers is to share their insights and give us food for thought for the rest of the day as we talk to each other about ideas of how to accelerate what we're doing today, and the rest of the year that we're going to be working with entrepreneurs and the talent here to continue developing those skills and methods. So without further ado, we're going to move forward with our agenda, and a lot more will become clear with a lot of the discussions that come up. This year, we're really, really proud to work with the DigiWeek 21 to be part of a series of events put together by the Ministry of High-Tech Industries and UATE. Really happy to kick off those first 2 days. So in order for everybody to know what's going on, I would love to ask Rafik Asarjan, Executive Director of UATE, to come up and quickly say a few words about the agenda, and we can get started with our keynote panel.
Thank you, Narcissus. Good morning, everybody. I think the fact that it's cooler in here will make sure everybody's kind of very energized for the rest of the day. This is an incredible week for us, and it's an incredible way to start the week. I want to, first of all, on behalf of UATE and the ministry, congratulate Nerses and the entire team that's been working on making Showcase happen. I'm just looking at everybody around here and have an inside peek at the agenda. It's fantastic. It's incredible, actually. And the idea behind DigiWeek was that as Armenia becomes more connected to the rest of the world, especially in technology, and especially as there is so much more interaction between Armenian tech companies and markets abroad, Armenians living abroad, Armenians living here, we really, the Ministry of High Technology Industry and UAT said, if we could, rather than having events throughout the year where people have to decide which one they can make trips to, let's do it all in one sort of packed week so that people coming from outside can participate in multiple events and also kind of raise the energy level for one short week to see all the incredible things that are happening in the Armenian tech world. And when we say Armenian tech world, it's not just in Armenia. I mean, as all of you are aware, many of you are coming from around the world. Ners has mentioned 27 countries. So it's a really exciting time, I think, for Armenian technology. And again, we're very, very happy and proud to be working with HyeTech Showcase on this. So let me talk very briefly about what's going on, what's going to happen over today and the next 7 days afterwards. So today's HyeTech Showcase, as you know, here, and then tomorrow, Nerses and the team move the show to Gyumri, which should be super exciting as well. And then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have what is the region's largest tech event, Digitech. Many of you have been to Digitech in years past. This will be our 15th Digitech that will be taking place. And two things have changed. One is that 2 years ago when when UATE organized the WCIT 2019, where we had people come from around the world for what was truly a global conference, we decided that from now on, Digitech is not just going to be about sort of, us Armenians in Armenia getting together and all, talking to everybody we already know. And so what our plan was to have an annual international conference take place every October in line with the Digitech Expo. But unfortunately, because of COVID last year and the war, we weren't able to hold it. So we just sort of shifted everything a year. So I invite all of you to come to Digitech 21, starting at 10 o'clock on Friday morning. That's when the expo opens, and at 1 p.m. the summit opens. And what's great is that Nerses and we were able to collaborate to have a lot of the same speakers talking about different subjects across these events. So I really think it will be interesting. And we've moved Digitech from the Mergelian Institute to the Garan Demirjian Sports Complex. We have a much larger venue. The expo is the largest we've ever had. The summit will be in the concert hall, also quite large. And we have the opening of a brand new kind of image campaign for Armenian technology that's going to be in the foyer of the Hamali. So even if you can't come to the summit, I encourage you to come and visit the expo. And on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, back here, and hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer, we have 3 DG Week summits. These are thematic one-day events that will be essentially a number of panel discussions going deeper into some of the subjects that will be talked about today. On Monday will be the Science and Sustainability Summit, which will look both at scientific innovation and also at what's happening in sustainability with Armenia and beyond. Tuesday is the Artificial Intelligence Summit, which is exactly what it sounds like. And given the incredible advancements in AI in Armenian technology over the last few years, we'll see some really interesting things there. And then Wednesday the 3rd is the Venture Summit. So I invite all of you, if you want more information, you can look it up at digiweek.am and also Digitech AM. I know I took more time than I should. I want you guys to get started to the content. Have a great rest of the day today, and I look forward to networking with you. Thank you, Nerses.
Thank you very much, Rafi, and good luck with the incredible set of events and speakers, and we encourage everybody to really join them. I do have one ask of everybody here. We have dedicated 5 hours for networking. If I can get everybody's attention in the back, I am being very specific here. I would like to ask everybody here to talk to everybody else there and have everybody sit down. The noise is very difficult for the speakers here. We've asked our speakers to come and spend their time. We would like to make sure that they enjoy this experience as well. So we would like everybody in the back to come sit down. We will have 5 hours to connect, talk, and get to know each other. Thank you. Pawan, please. Tigran and Vahe, please join us over Zoom. Excellent. So we're going to keep this pretty casual. So Pawan, you've joined us just a few days ago. Vahe is actually sitting here in his room in Yerevan, joining us remotely. Thank you for joining us. And Tigran is joining us from the Bay Area. What I would maybe first to do is I'll actually let you guys introduce yourself. I know everybody already knows most people here, but Pawan, why don't you get started? You joined us from Hyderabad, and maybe tell us what your connection is to Armenia in this event as well, so everybody can know.
Yeah. So thanks nurses for inviting me here. So it's wonderful to be in Armenia. I love the weather, I love the people. It's a bit chill here, but still, I'm enjoying it. So I'm Pawan. I'm from India. I'm founder of a startup called Skyroot Aerospace. So what we do is we build rockets for launching satellites to space. So we are one of the very few companies around the world who manufacture, build and launch rockets. And so we're based out of India. From a city called Hyderabad, which is also called the Rocket City, where like a lot of manufacturing happens in building rockets. And so we have a 100-member team in India. So we are expanding quite aggressively now. So we raised a capital of something like $12.5 million as of now. We're raising our next round of capital of $40 million. So we are like one of the first few deep tech startups in India. A new revolution is happening in India with the upspring of deep tech startups. So being part of that journey, and also it's like wonderful to interact with entrepreneurs in Armenia. A lot of energy. I mean, like I didn't believe such fantastic companies have come out of Armenia. So having a great time here, and look forward to the interaction.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll go by distance to this room. So Vahe, please introduce yourself to the group here.
Hi everyone, my name is Vahe. I'm co-founder and president of Service Titan. I apologize for my voice. I would have been there today, but I didn't want to potentially get anyone sick. The good news is I just got my COVID results. I am negative, so hopefully I'll be there with you guys later today. And yeah, we're a software company. We started in 2007, and we opened up our office in Yerevan 2 years ago. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Vahe. And Tigran, can you introduce yourself and the company you represent?
Absolutely. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Vahe. Good to see you, man. Hope you feel better soon. Really wanted to be in Yerevan in person as well, but did not work out this time around. A lot of our team members are actually there though, so go find them, say hello from me as well. Name is Tigran Sloan. I'm the co-founder CEO of CodeSignal. We are very much an Armenian company. Our first ever office was opened in Armenia back in 2015. We still have very strong presence in Armenia, but we've grown globally. Recently raised a 50 million Series C led by Index, which is a shared investor with Service Titan, and hiring, growing a lot. As a company, we are very much dedicated to this idea that talent matters, and it matters a lot. We actually live by the motto that talent is the most important asset that humanity has. So excited to be here and talking about this topic.
Thank you, Tigran. I do want to actually poke a little bit more at what you said, Tigran, because you've really dedicated your entire company to this mission. And maybe if you don't mind first telling us a little bit about how you scaled as an organization, because your job now is to help a lot of organizations scale. But what did you scale and what did you learn in that process? And how big is the team now, and where are you located for some context?
Yeah, absolutely. We're still shockingly small for the amount of money we've raised and the number of customers we've got. We're still about 70 people. That is up from like 25 from like 9 months ago. So the team almost tripled. A third of that is in Armenia. The rest is all over the world, from many places in Europe, from like Switzerland and UK to all over the United States. The way we've scaled is from day one, understanding that it's all about first who, then what. Because when you focus on the first who concept, it's all about the people that you have in the company. And you realize that, what is a company than a collection of people on a mission to accomplish something? It really defines how you go about hiring. So from day one, really, I focused on bringing great people and enabling them to achieve great results. And I attribute almost everything that we've accomplished in the company over the last few years to that core group of people that have been at the company from the very beginning. And it's been amazing to actually see the team grow and triple in size in 9 months. And I'm excited to triple it again in the next 9 months. The level of complexity scales, and the biggest difficulty becomes communication, because communication breaks down once the number of people goes beyond just a group you can get together and everybody knowing each other, and it becomes significantly more complicated. But we're figuring it out day by day, and having great people in the company from the get-go definitely makes a difference.
Thanks, Tigran. And Pawan, actually, I think you have a very unique experience of developing something that's not, at least for most of us, isn't software. It's definitely a lot more than that. So I'd love to know, what has been some of the unique challenges or unique opportunities for you as you grew your team to over 100 now in only a couple of years? What's that been like?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm in an industry where the skill is mostly within the government. Outside the government, it's hardly, people working on space technology, working on rockets, etc., etc. So it has been very challenging for us to find the right talent in the country. In fact, we doubled during the pandemic, and we are close to 100 people now. And next year also we are planning to double. So what we tried to do is we tried to find passionate people who like to work in this industry. And so for that, what we did is we built a brand for what we call a talent brand. So where our people who worked in our company, so they become ambassadors. So they go to the social media and say, this is what we're doing, this is something which is very exciting. So anybody else who is really wanting to be in this sector and who is into, various streams of engineering, so they're welcome to apply. And we made the visibility quite clear, how to apply, what to apply, and who all can apply, and how will be the great culture working at Skyroot would be. So we build a talent brand, and in fact, we're proud to say, for each application we get 10,000 applications, so for each position. so we built a kind of a brand which let people wanting to explore an opportunity, and from them we choose the best talent. And still, it has been very difficult to find the right talent. So the only secret sauce has been increasing awareness, creating a talent brand, going to nook and corner of the country, finding best engineers around. Yeah.
So actually, we're in a pretty small market here in Armenia relative to where you're at, and so the organization that I was in with Vanetti, when we joined, it was when we came to and established our office here. Obviously, we had to do quite a lot of work to put together that brand and really talk about our vision. But reach was not necessarily a big obstacle. So, and as companies forming here or globally, but still in that smaller local network, as we think about expanding out and globalizing and reaching the bigger network, so you being in a place like Hyderabad and in a bigger country like India, how did you manage to break through so much and actually bring that visibility about your company? Because I'm assuming that's not very easy to be visible to so many people. So what was your secret?
Yeah, so one secret is social media. So now the world is, everybody's on social media. So we use a lot of LinkedIn, so in fact, we have something like 80,000 followers on LinkedIn. So we build a vibrant LinkedIn community. And also we have people free to share whatever they feel about the company. So that networks, people talk to more people, and more people talk to more people. So that chain reaction happens, which helps in reaching a very large community in India. And also we also do a good high quality press releases as well. Because so generally space is very exciting for everybody. So every kid looks forward to it. A lot of engineers look forward to the sector. So there is natural interest in everything which happens in the industry. So we take advantage of that, and a lot of press around the industry. So we take leverage of that. So any movement, any good movement, any milestone, we share it with the press, and that reaches probably India is a country of more than 1 billion people. So we see a good reach with the press. So that is one. Other than the social media, there is also press which reaches a lot of people.
Got it. And there's so much to dig into a few things that you just said there, but before that, I would want to jump to you, Vahe. Your path to growth has also been both a long one and a short one, given the history of your organization and then the speed with which you've had to grow. What was the company like to run at the first stage of it, and then what did you have to adapt, and how do you have to change about building a team and scaling as you had to meet the demand?
Yeah, our history is a little interesting. For the first 5 years, it was just me and my co-founder. And then since 2013, we've grown pretty quickly. We're a little over 2,000 people now. And, I think it's different at different phases of growth. In the early years, you're looking for a different profile of talent. And it really just comes down to, in the same way you grow customers, in the early years, it's all word of mouth. You build a place that then builds a reputation, and then that attracts, great talent. And so ultimately it's pretty straightforward. You got to build a place that people want to come to work for, especially in an environment that's very competitive. So for us, it really comes down to making sure that they've got shared values, that they are aligned with the mission, and that they're people that we want to work with. And if those pieces are there, the rest of it tends to fall in place.
Tigran, I'm actually going to come to you now for your expert opinion, because I think we've all heard every entrepreneur say at every stage of the company, we're going to have a culture that everybody wants to join. We're going to have we're going to have people talk about our company. We're going to have social media. We're going to create a community. Everybody starts out with the right intention, I think. I think maybe some don't, but mostly everybody has the right intention going in. In your experience working with so many companies to scale, what are the things that some entrepreneurs do right to kind of actualize their dream, and what are the traps that they fall into that you see as companies grow?
Great question. I'm going to start from, I've got so many answers to this, but I'm going to focus on the expert version of it, which is very related to what we do as a company, which is getting good at interviews. It's interesting how people all believe that they're like very good at interviewing. Like, whoever you ask is like, oh, I've got the secret sauce. I've got this figured out. But in reality, very few people are actually good at interviewing. I mean, if you think about what most interviews look like, they're a conversation. Like it's kind of insane. And I've seen this at some of the, top funded companies out there where you go and look at their process and it's a conversation after conversation after conversation. And I have to give them an example of like getting a driver's license for them to understand that a conversation is not enough, right? And the example is that imagine if we gave driver's licenses by just having a conversation with someone about their ability to drive a car, right? So if you just said like, hey, tell me about a time that, you had to change a lane and there was a car in your blind spot, I could probably tell you like exactly how I would handle it, but you put me in front of the wheel and I'll crash the car in like 10 minutes. And I think internalizing this concept that you need to have some level of proof of demonstrating your ability is like very, very fundamental to getting good at interviewing. And from very beginning, I mean, obviously this is core to what we do as a company, as Code Signal. We allow our customers to be able to like get this hands-on demonstration of skill, like a flight simulator for developers. But we ourselves live this value internally for every role. Like every role you interview for, there is some level of simulation for the job. I mean, if you're coming in for a sales role, we're going to ask you to do a demo. We're going to ask you to like show the product, have a discovery call, and we pretend to be customers in many cases. If you're coming for support, we're going to simulate the support ticket coming your way in a very high pressure situation. You've got to figure it out. Without it, not only you're not going to have a high, quality hiring rate, but you eventually end up with a group of people that others don't want to work with. Because the number one thing that you can do to build a great culture is attract a great group of people that others want to come in and work with. Because otherwise, when you get someone great in, they're going to look around and be like, I do not want to be here, and live a couple of months into the job.
So following up on that, I mean, I hear also from entrepreneurs that it's really difficult to design the right test, and it probably comes from not having as much experience. How do you approach, given how much more deep tech your company requires? How have you approached the process of actually identifying the right person to hire?
Yeah.
So firstly,
this was for Pawan. Sorry, Tigran.
Sorry, were you asking me or you were
I was asking Pawan. I will actually ask it to everybody here.
Sorry,
I'll start with Pawan.
Yeah,
yes, sorry, that was my mistake. Go ahead, Pawan.
yeah. So first thing is that so our product, what product we are building is very clear. So the streams of engineering, the kind of skill required is very, very clear to us, because we know the final product which we are building and the timelines we are building, etc., etc. So we directly target these kind of skills, because we know the product quite well, and then these skills are a bit very rare. The biggest challenge is that these skills are very rare. However, they are related to existing skills like core general engineering skills, whether it's computer science, mechanical, electrical, etc., etc. So we identify the core product, what are the skill sets required, identify the closest engineering skills which is required, and get the best people, in these streams, to get them interested, excited to work for the product which we are building and meet the timelines and the kind of quality, the kind of the rigor, etc., which is required to build the product.
Is there any other qualities you look for in the talent you build that maybe somebody would be able to work successfully in the government sector or within a research environment, but now needs to have a different attribute to work within a startup, fast-moving, high ambiguity environment?
Yeah, so I mean, we are a startup, so the only way, we scale to a level, we become one of the best in the world, is to have a very agile mindset. So we look for a very agile mindset where people can mend their ways, change their strategies very fast, be very dynamic, etc. But still have a skill set, which is important for the company. So we basically give more importance to the mind, the passion, in fact, obsession for working for the sector, working for the product, etc. That's what we look for. And skills can be learned, so we can train people to learn the skills. So only we look for the minimum kind of fundamentals which is required anywhere, and then the passion and obsession for the sector, for the product you're building. That is more important than for our recruitment, especially because you see in a startup you need to build products which nobody has built, so there will be a lot of failures every day. So you go down and you have to climb up, and only a passionate person can come up very fast. So that's where we see the passion for the tech you're building is very, very important in hiring.
What do you do to manage the feeling that comes with failure, right? With something not working?
So what we did is we built a culture where failure is accepted and is considered as a stepping stone to success. So I mean, we build a culture where if something fails, we are not so surprised. We know there's a learning in that, right? So we build a culture where we fail regularly. I mean, we are encouraged to do experiments, fail, learn, and grow. So we manage that with the culture where failure is absolutely accepted, encouraged for innovation.
Thank you very much, Pawan. I think such a dear topic to me, having gone through so much of it in the past 10, 20, 12, 15 years. I'll go to you, Vahe, for the same question. From what you said, sort of building a company and hiring people almost is the same thing, because to hire the right person, you have to understand what you need to. And what has been your approach to identifying the talent that fits your particular way of building an organization and achieving that vision?
Yeah, that was such a great analogy from Tigran. For us, we break it up into identifying the technical skills necessary and figuring out how we test for that. But in addition to that, cultural fit is a really big part of our interview process. And we're very methodical in terms of how we do that. And we set up our interview panels so that each person is focusing on a different part of that profile that we're looking for. We also place a really heavy emphasis on the reference calls. There are certain things that only really come out once you talk to people that have worked with them for a long time. But ultimately, so much of the success comes down to the hiring process. Because if you mess that up and you don't do that correctly, everything else is like thousand times harder to do. In our case, the other thing that we really look for is ultimately how we feel like they're going to contribute to the team and their ability to demonstrate an ability to fail correctly and in a way that's productive has been really, really important. I apologize. My voice is like killing me right now. But that point about failure is really, really important. And, as someone who has a lot of experience failing, it's something that I really value. And what I really care about is making sure they know how to fail correctly, which really comes down to mitigating risks and really focusing on the learning process. What matters is not failing, it's making sure you don't fail from the same thing twice. Sorry.
Thank you so much. And we're going to be wrapping up in just a few minutes and moving forward with our agendas, but I have two really, really important questions that I really want to get out before we end. First, is a very tactical question for you, Tigran, specifically, if you don't mind. You've invested a lot in building hiring within your own company, sort of managing talent with your own company, given a lot of the insights. What is something that you've done about the way that you build your hiring teams themselves and train your hiring teams themselves to make yourself successful that you wish every company, whether or not they're in the business of talent acquisition or talent management, would do to better their company?
It's a great question, and you can tell I was so excited to answer the question about assessment design that I was going to take Pawan's spot doing it. But I think, the concept of simulation is still core, the one that I've mentioned, that you have to have some type of simulation in hiring. But I think the second part of it, which is even more important, is at least having a structure. I think too many companies go into hiring without having a structure and a clear plan of what is it that they're looking for and how they're going to go and identify that. Too many times they just shoot from the hip. They show up, they ask some questions and they trust their gut. I mean, there are so many experiments that show how faulty your gut is and how many times it can get you wrong, starting from, judges. Like there is a very well-researched study that says, judges that if you were sentenced before their lunchtime, you got a much harsher sentence than if you were sentenced after lunch, right? Literally a judge whose job it is to be consistent when sentencing similar cases, they pass a harsher sentence when they haven't had their food and they're feeling a little bit grumpier. Like similar effects happen in hiring. If you don't have a clear structure and a structured process and way of going about it, you end up with a very, very inconsistent hiring process and a very inconsistent group of people that you've brought into the company, which ultimately just trickles into everything else you do in the company.
But how do you train your hiring managers, recruiters, talent, people ops? Like, how do you make sure they know the right things to do? Because you're not running around every interview making sure they're doing everything consistently, are you?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to have a process. Like the process starts from, you have to have a pre-brief for every role. Like once you open a role, a lot of companies do debriefs. Once you've kind of interviewed someone, you get together and talk about it, hopefully. But very few companies actually do proper pre-briefs. Let's say you decided to hire for a role. You have to meet beforehand. You have to talk about and write down exactly the list of things you're looking for, the list of ways you're going to measure for it, who's going to measure for each attribute from personality to skill set to other attributes and stick to that plan. And even when it comes to kind of where you provide the feedback, where you write the feedback forms have to be structured based on the pre-brief that was discussed versus, again, relying on people to follow that structure. So the short answer to your question is like, you cannot rely on just people doing the right thing and having to train them or run around checking that they did. The process itself has to be structured enough where like it's easy to do that. It's easier to follow that than not to, because people just, they say water flows, finds the path of least resistance. You have to create a path of least resistance is to follow a structured process to interview and provide feedback so that it will stay consistent over time.
Thank you, Tigran. So my last question is to everybody, but I'll start with our remote participants. We have about 500 people participating today, joining us. I would say 80% of the people work for startups. They represent a large number of talent that's really in the process of helping these companies grow and scale, and they're all figuring things out and learning. If you were here and networking with everybody, and our goal is for every entrepreneur to meet at least 20 people across the entire ecosystem that they haven't met, what is something that you would like to know from the talent? What question would you have of everybody that you might want to meet here about what's important for them? What would be your question? What's the insight you try to figure out about this talent pool? I'll start from you, Tigran.
Oh, such a deep question, huh? If there's one thing that I'm looking for, I would say it would be what motivates them. I have a deep desire to understand what motivates humans, and there is a lot of overlap. You'll be shocked how if you ask enough people what motivates and what drives them, there's categories of things that motivate people, sometimes driven by their upbringing, sometimes driven by their current circumstances. But I think when it comes to, I always say hiring is a matching problem. Like not every highly qualified person is a match for a great company. There are specific set of things that are from motivation to life situation to goals that have to match with whatever the company has to offer. So I always start by trying to understand what drives you, what motivates you, like what makes you get up in the morning and want to do stuff versus just sleep for another 3 hours.
Thank you. And Vahe?
Man, I hate answering after Tigran. He always makes me look so bad. I think for me, one question I like to ask is, especially in the interview process, I like to say, if we were to move forward and I can make you one promise, what would you want me to promise you? And I found that that's a really good way of understanding both their motivations and their fears. So that would be my question.
Very interesting. And Pawan, what are you going to be asking everybody here today?
So I would like to learn the recipe of a satisfied work life. So what makes people happy about their work life? What are the ingredients which are required by them, for them, to make their work life very happy? Because it's very, very difficult to move forward. Even no matter how much talented you are, you're going to break down if you're working for a startup. There'll be some day where, you'll have to break down. So the whole essential ingredient to go, because every startup is a marathon. We know it's not like a very fast race, it's a marathon. We all know it. So the ingredient which I look for is what makes your work life very satisfactory so that you can run a marathon very satisfactorily and be happy, and and that infectious energy will share to the rest of the team as well. So this is the recipe I'm always learning, would like to learn from the community here as well.
I have a feeling a little bit of heat here would definitely make people a lot more satisfied, but I think we're going to have to work through. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this discussion. We're going to see you a couple of more times today in different topics. And Vahe, please feel better soon. and we'll see you around while you're here. And Tigran, always excited to see you. Thank you so much for the incredible insights that you gave me personally that have actually made into the DNA of this event just a few weeks ago. So thank you for all of that back in San Francisco. So hope to see you soon, and hope to see everybody in Armenia again next year when we do this.
Likewise.
All right,
Thank you
I'm
so
actually
much.
headed over there now, so I'll see you guys there.
So,
Thank you. And I'm going to pass on the baton to Lara Sachakian, journalist, entrepreneur, and the impact partner at Fresco Capital.
Thank you so much, Nerses. First of all, sitting in the front row here, I got a fantastic look at Nerses's socks. And they're really cool. So make sure sometime today you have a chance to say hello to Nerses and his socks. Welcome everyone to our second panel of the day on global talent. I'd like to invite our esteemed diplomatic guests up to the stage to join us. So our second panel of the day on global talent is really about how Armenia's tech sector can scale by partnering and collaborating with tech talent around the world. This is not a new conversation. Armenians have always operated and integrated on a global scale. Our history, like technology, is a story of hybridity, working with new people, ideas, and designs to create something new. So how do we do that now to fulfill Armenia's technology potential and scale its success? We have three truly esteemed panelists to help address that question today. I'd like to officially welcome to the conference Ambassador Kishan Dandewal, Ambassador of India to the United States, Ambassador Lynn Tracy, Ambassador of the United States of America to Armenia, and Mr. Frank Hess, the Head of Cooperation for the EU delegation to Armenia. Thank you all very much for joining us. And you can simply grab these microphones on the table, these handhelds. So since we have such a very limited time with our guests, I'll cut right to the questions that people in this room are trying to figure out. How can Armenia effectively attract talent and technical and entrepreneurial talent from your countries and regions? What kind of programs or features do you think would draw that kind of talent to Armenia? So how can we essentially structure programs to get more talent from your regions to work here in Armenia or with Armenia? And what do you see as the unique advantages and selling points Armenia has to offer in attracting talent from your countries or regions? Wine and food do not count. So what other selling points, other than wine and food, do you think Armenia can offer to make this a really attractive partnership? So let's go ahead and start here on the end with the Ambassador of India and work our way inward and see what time we've got left at the end, and really appreciate your thoughts and reflections.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank you and Narcis for giving me this opportunity to be amongst this very young talent of Armenia, and also welcome my colleague Ambassador Tracy. Since this is new field for me, in diplomacy we are doing many other things, and this is certainly a new emerging field. I would like to touch upon the Indian story of emerging as an IT leader and Indian talent in general, and then comment a bit about the Armenian scenario of talent attracting. So let me begin with the India's role in global IT industry today. Let me give you some figures. IT industry is one of the pillars of modern India, And today it accounts for 8% of India's GDP, which is quite significant. The IT industry revenue as on today are estimated at US dollar 190 billion and growing at 7.7% per year. And they are expected to reach by 2025 to 350 billion. As of 2020, India's IT workforce accounts for 4.3 million employees in India. And India's share in IT industry is almost 28% globally. And Europe and US are our two biggest markets. US alone accounts for 2/3 of India's IT services exports. So it talks about the volume that India is offering to the world. And today, as you know, because of the COVID, the entire world has seen unprecedented challenges in all the fields. In all the spheres of the economic life, everything has been grappled with the impact of the pandemic. And even during this time, India has emerged as one of the ray of hope for the world by providing services, by providing vaccines, by providing medicines, and we are proud to say that we have emerged from farmer to pharmacy to the pharmacy of the world. This progression has been quite impressive. As you would have noticed, recently we have reached the threshold of 1 billion vaccine of doses in India. It's no small achievement to say.
And I know you've been based here now for 2 years in Armenia.
Yes.
And you told me you love the hiking and you a lot of things that you love, that you're genuinely enjoying your time as an ambassador here. Is there anything that you think is especially appealing as we look to collaborate with more people from India and have them come visit more often?
Yes, sure. So I'm coming to that now. Armenia is a fantastic country, beautiful people, very friendly atmosphere. And I envy that Armenians speak better English than me, or most of the Indians, I would say, and with very American accent. So it shows that, Armenians have very global attitude and they have the talent to rise and shine globally. Now, coming on to this point, I'll refer back to my notes. As you see that Armenia's IT sector has recorded a very strong growth in the recent years and is continuing expansion of new companies and hiring as Armenia continues to increase its presence in the global value chains. What are the things that I would like to talk about India-Armenia connections rather than global talent hunt. So one example that I want to give you, and perhaps many of our colleagues here would know, that we had established with an Indian assistance an Armenia-India Center of Excellence in Information Technology. It was established in 2012, way back in 2012. It was a very good beginning. It was the time when Armenia was beginning to grow in the IT industry, and I am proud to share with you that 1/3 of total IT workforce of Armenia is trained in that center. So it's a small contribution, I would say, that India has made to Armenia's IT scenario. As you know, and many of our today's panelists referred that in Armenia, IT industry is facing challenges of scaling and quickening the growth. So scaling is a major challenge here because of obvious reason of the size of the population in the country. So you have to look for your partners globally, and India can be a great partner. I mean, apart from US, certainly. If you look at skills, I think India can offer you that opportunity. That is one. Secondly, in India, we have some very famous and huge IT giants such as Infosys, TCS, Wipro, HCL Tech. These 3, 4, 5 companies, they are employing more than 1 million employees. So these companies are now looking to expand elsewhere, and in Armenia, they have not come yet. So there is a possibility of collaboration with those big giants of India and having their offices here, and do some joint projects with our Armenian friends and Armenian technical companies. Coming to the one point that I want to add, why India have been able to achieve good progress in the IT industry is the educational infrastructure that exists in our country. Two biggest examples are the Indian Institute of Technology and Indian Institute of Management. These two institutes, they have several branches in India. They provide world-class skilled workforce which immediately enters in the market, and they are doing great job. And some of the big well-known names and CEOs of major companies like CEO of Google, CEO of Microsoft, they come from India, and at some point of time they have their roots come from these educational institutions, either IIMs or IITs. So one way that Armenia could do is to replicate this model in Armenia. How it can be done, how it should be done, these are the further topics of further discussion. But I think this is what to give acceleration to the IT industry, to the IT trained workforce in Armenia. I think this model can be replicated here.
Thank you.
Lastly, I want to touch upon two more things. That we are looking at attracting talent to Armenia, right? So here you will have to give some really solid reasons for talent to come here. I mean, the question will be asked, why Armenia and why not US or Europe, for example? So there can be two, three incentives that government has to give, Armenian society has to give, and your industry has to give here. One is perhaps better monetary compensation. Two, it's closer to home. If we attract Indian talent here, it's closer to home for them. This could be marketed better. And three, we find in Armenia our people very comfortable. We have cultural similarities. I don't say that we don't have cultural similarities with US or the Western countries. We might have, but I would say that Armenian people and Armenian land is very warm for us, and we are country of a warm climate, so we would love to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those concrete thoughts. Ambassador Tracy, any reflections to share?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to address this conference. I want to thank the conference organizers, Nersis, Rafi, Lara. When I was first asked to participate in this conference, I really did wonder what a child of the rotary telephone age could tell a conference of high-tech companies, technology companies, about a topic that they must know a lot more than I do. But on further reflection, I think the first place to start with some things to share with this group that comes from the American experience, but is a very important model as Armenians think about how to strengthen the environment here for Armenian technology companies. I mean, what has helped the United States be a leader in innovation? We have the entrepreneurial spirit. There's no doubt about that. But entrepreneurial spirit alone is not enough if there isn't an enabling set of conditions. In the United States, what we have is probably one of the strongest intellectual property rights protection regimes in the world, which means that people who have creative ideas, who spend the time developing those ideas, getting to them to the place of marketing them, have protections so that all of that hard work is not lost and simply sucked up by somebody else and monetized. And that really matters. I mean, how many people in this room want to spend a lot of time working and developing something, only seeing it taken away, stolen away by somebody else? So strong intellectual property rights protection. The other thing that you can see in the United States is a very important ecosystem that exists between government, academia, and the private sector. And all three are investing in research and development. The United States government frequently has been an investor in ideas at a moment when private sector was not interested because it wasn't profitable. And the fact that there was an actor like government willing to take a very long-term view and make investments was important. You know, but what we're seeing also in the United States and here is that there is money for startups, and that's very important. We're seeing private sector taking those risks. And then the other component, academia, having a strong educational system that provides students with the foundation that is necessary in the STEM fields to be successful in the technology space is critical. And I know that this is an area that the Armenian government is focused on. It should be. You know, one of the things that I heard nearly 2.5 years ago when I arrived in Armenia, and I had a meeting with an American company that's present here in Armenia. It's its second largest operation in the world. And what they told me is they were looking for to grow the company here. They had 100 open positions on top of a workforce of 800. They could not find enough qualified applicants in Armenia to fill those 100 positions because the students did not have the hard science, engineering skills that this company was looking for. So this is an area that is of critical importance if you're going to look to grow and attract companies that want to be here, but they've got to find that talent here. And so, you know, as you are talking to government and advocating for things that you want to see in the education space, it's making sure that those investments are happening, and not just at the university level. If you wait to start talking at the university level to students, you're too late. Science, math, these are topics that require investment at the primary level, at the middle school, and at the high school level. I think just one or two other thoughts. First of all, my understanding is that we have a number of American companies present here today. So as you are trying to understand how did companies get started in the kind of environment that I described, they're here. Nirsa said there's 5 hours of networking time, so talk to them then. And then I think the final thought that I'll conclude on is even though Laura said that we're not allowed to talk about wine, I am going to talk about wine because I think it provides a very, very important analogy to provide some inspiration to those who are in the tech space. I mean, for those of you who are in Armenia, this probably isn't a new story, but Armenia's wine culture was nearly destroyed down to the ground by the Soviet era. And then the neighbor to the north, Georgia, so they were the winemaking industry, and Armenia was the brandy making industry. But you have to ask yourself, if you're watching the wine industry, how is it that within a very short period of time since independence, how is it that Armenians have suddenly built this extremely strong agribusiness, the wine agribusiness, that is competing at a world level? And it is because Armenians are entrepreneurs, they are creators. They had an earlier tradition taken away and it didn't hold them down. They have bounced back. And I think that that is probably going to be one of the strongest magnets for why companies are going to come here and want to work here, is because of that creative spirit that always finds a way forward, even under adversity. And if you want inspiration, and there are many names, and I'll give one outside of the wine industry just to be fair to the rules. You know, we just saw Artem Pataputian receive a Nobel Prize in medicine. I mean, I think this hopefully is the kind of inspirational model for Armenians here and in the diaspora that will remind them that the opportunities here are just wide open and available, and I'm sure that they're going to find future success here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And our third panelist, Mr. Frank Hess, the head of cooperation for the EU delegation to Armenia. Now, Mr. Hess, I understand you yourself are from Germany, but of course you're here representing all of the EU. So you get to pick, from either perspective, how can Armenia really work with talent and bring it into this country?
Yes, good morning, and let me also thank you first for inviting me to this interesting event. And I would like to start by saying that one of the big advantages that Armenia has...
I think we just invite you to move it even closer, the microphone even closer.
Okay. I would say one of the things that Armenia has is you. I mean, the fact that you are organizing this in conditions that are not too easy, that you have brought this big crowd of people here, that shows people that are willing to work in the IT industry, is one major reason that gives me hope for this country and hope for this industry. And you do have indeed a very dynamic industry already. You have lots of companies that are active in the sector. You have a brilliant entrepreneurial spirit that you can draw upon. You have a very welcoming population. I've been only here 2 months, but I already feel it. And Yerevan is a great place to be. And what I also see is that you are also now starting to go out to the provinces and to basically also come up with centers of excellence in other places, not just in Yerevan. And I think that will be very important for your success. But on a more general level, in addition to what the excellencies have said already, it's important, in my view, to have a welcoming business culture overall. And I think you have that, but there is room to do more. One other thing, and talking about the EU now, I think one of the strengths that we have is in some of the countries, including my own, we have a very strong vocational education system. And why does it work well? It's because you have companies that invest into it, that are part of the system. You have the whole education sector that is involved in it. And of course, you have the students. And what you need is that all these actors work together and to work not just on the technical skills, the STEM skills, but also social skills are very important, because you will have to interact with customers. You will not just sit behind your screen wherever you are, but also you have to go out. You have to acquire new orders for your company. So it's important to also think, in my view, beyond STEM. And when I think about education, I think education is not just relevant for you and for what Armenia has to offer, but it's also important if you want to bring in expats to the country, you need to have good schools for the kids to go to, otherwise people will not come. And linked to this is the health system. I think Armenia has some promising elements in the health system, but this is also a fact where Armenia certainly can and will need to do more in the future, because not many expats, not many entrepreneurs will want to go to a country where you cannot get the world-class healthcare. So that would be another element that I think is important to work on.
Fantastic insights from all of you. Thank you. We're almost out of time, but out of respect for the great questions that have come in, you might not see them. They're behind you and up on the screen. I just want to toss one of them out, see if you have any reflections. So there's one question. I can read it a bit. There's a bit of a glare, but I believe it's about talent exchange programs. So are there any talent exchange programs currently between your countries and Armenia? Could you imagine one happening? Are there any models that we might adopt? A little sort of bit on your toes, unexpected question, but let's once again move from the Ambassador of India inward, and then we'll wrap up just after that.
May I? So, when we talk about talent exchange program, I want to mention about one particular program that our government is running for friendly countries. This is called HyeTech, India Technical Economic Cooperation Program. Under this program, we are inviting experts in many fields, not only IT. Experts in various fields. There are 300 subjects, and from these 300 subjects, we are inviting Armenian, I'm talking about Armenia, but from many other friendly countries also. So this year we had 60 slots, 60 slots for going them to India to train for short-term courses in different fields. It's IT, finance, academics, management, and many more. So these courses are open for our Armenian friends. And last year they were all online. This year hopefully we will start offline, and they are fully sponsored, including travel, fully sponsored by Government of India. And some of the courses are very relevant for Armenia, and they are very good. I mean, people who have attended them, they come back with very, very positive impression, and they are useful in their career advancement. So I would like to request our friends here to visit our embassy website and look for HyeTech program, read about it, and see if something is relevant for you and apply for the same. Yeah.
That's great to know. I had no idea. Yeah. I don't know if such things exist already, or anything we might learn from in other exchanges that you guys have done.
Sure.
Off to Ambassador Lynn Tracy.
Thank you. We have a range of exchange programs. But what I'm very proud of is that after I arrived and when we received some additional funding, we added to our high school exchange program a tag for STEM, so that we have a group of our high school exchange students who are sent to the United States from Armenia, who will be matched up with areas and companies that are in the STEM fields to help accelerate their opportunities. And then the other exchange programs that we have, as I said, we have an undergraduate program, we have the Fulbright. All of those have space for those who are interested in STEM fields or in technology. Something else that I'm very proud that we're doing, we are working with the Han Academy here and provided a grant to have STEM subjects translated into Armenian, which will help provide that basis that I was talking about in education to get young people ready and prepared to be successful in the STEM fields. So there is a lot of area of collaboration, and that is very important to have that back and forth. What I would also like to see at the end of the day is that we get more Americans coming here to Armenia.
Diplomats do cool stuff. That's one of my key learnings from today. Mr. Hess, any things you'd like to add?
So we also have, of course, exchange programs in most, if not all, of the EU countries, but I'll talk about the European programs. There is above all Horizon, which is a program to exchange on research and development. And I think that one is particularly relevant for Armenia because you can then get access to a number of worldwide research networks. And it's our intention to make sure that Armenia will benefit from this even more in the future, as they're already doing. We then have our program, which is called Erasmus, which is about exchange of universities. And it has two features which I think are unique. One is that it's not just open for lecturers and students, but also all the other staff working in higher education institutions. So, for instance, somebody who is in charge of administration of a university, he can also have short-term and long-term exchanges with universities in Europe. The other feature that it has, it's also not just limited to higher education, but it also includes exchanges for vocational training students. So that's also something which I think is pretty unique.
Well, Ambassador Kishan Dandewal of India, Ambassador Lynn Tracy of the United States, and Mr. Frank Hess, Head of Cooperation for the EU and Armenia, thank you all very much. It was a great discussion. Please, a round of applause for our speakers.
Lara, thank you so much for this incredible panel. Thank you for all the delegates and their incredible insights. I learned a tremendous amount. It's cold, everybody. I think we, with HyeTech, run a program called Entrepreneur Immersion Program, where we take entrepreneurs to the Bay Area for 10 days, including Los Angeles and San Francisco. Well, today we've decided to bring San Francisco to Yerevan, so enjoy the cold weather of San Francisco. This is day one of your immersion program. This is just what you have to learn to be in the center of the tech world. We have two more panels that we're going to be having before we continue into the showcases. How is everybody feeling right now? How's everybody by the heater over there feeling right now? So thank you all for being here. So moving forward, we're going to be asking a few entrepreneurs to join us. And Sara Anjajudan is going to join us for the, actually this is, I have my panel wrong. Hambartsum Kaketian is going to join us as the moderator for the next panel. And we're going to ask our entrepreneurs to join us right now.
Yeah. Hey everyone. So yeah, it's pretty cold out there, but I hope it's really hot inside. So especially considering we have like startup crowd here. Okay, so today it's my pleasure and my honor to moderate this panel, and I would like to invite the speakers. So first one is David Bardassarian, the co-founder and CEO of CRISP. Georg Karapetyan is our second speaker on the panel. So Georg, please join us. The co-founder and CTO of Zero. And we also have Sona Mnatsakanian. Hey Sona, she's partner at Zevit. And Yeva is Yeva Hüsam from SoloLearn. She's joining. Okay, cool. She's joining remote. Okay, co-founder and CEO of SoloLearn. Okay, perfect.
Hello?
Okay, cool. Let's start with the first question, which will be about. Okay, we have Yeva. Hey Yeva, you hear us well? We can't hear Yeva, and Yeva can't hear us. How about that?
Okay, can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We're all set. So welcome, Yeva. It's really an honor to moderate the panel you are on with this great set of entrepreneurs. Okay, guys. So my first question would be about the beginnings. Like we'll be talking about the growing, about scaling growth, but I would like to start also with the beginnings. Like usually beginnings are very humble and very fragile, like the early days. And how did it happen that you started doing what you do today? Just give us like a brief intro, maybe. How did you start it? Why did you start doing what you do today? Yeah, let's start with David. Yeah.
So is the question how we started the company?
Yeah. What were the first early days? How did you start the company?
Okay, got it. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think Crisp's story is quite unique in that sense because, like when we started working on this idea, there was no company behind it, right? It was an idea, and the idea was exactly what Crisp is doing today, which is removing background noise, right? I personally had a need for that because I was living and working in San Francisco. And during summer times, I would come back to Armenia, and if it's summer evenings, you don't want to be at home evening. But during the evening times, because of time zone difference, I had to connect to the calls in the Pacific time, right? So the Bay Area calls. So I always wanted to have a button where I click, and I get some privacy, like so people don't know where I am, basically. That was a very personal need for me, and I shared that idea with Artyo, and he really liked it. So a team has been formed very early on, right? Like a couple folks, and they started working on this idea, but there was no company behind it. And 1 year later, I moved back to Armenia, and when I saw the team, I was so excited that I left Twilio, that company I was working for, and we started the company here. It was very, very early, right? Like we had 7 people in the team, all of them PhDs in math and physics, everyone except me, basically. So very, very tough days, I would say, but very exciting, right? So everyone was in Armenia in the beginning. It was not like a global company, right? Like everyone was here. And then like things have changed along the way, but yeah, it's shared workplace, like pretty, not very, I guess not very shiny chairs, tables. So very startup, like you can imagine garage basically. It was a garage type of situation.
Nice, thank you. And Gevorg, what's your story? How did you start it?
So let me remember. So it was like 6 years ago. I graduated from finished my PhD program and said, okay, I want to come back to the industry. Me and my friends were talking about the productivity, in the management of email management and document management, etc. And it's a problem. We said, okay, cool, let's solve it. And we started to the email management, and my co-founders were in the United States. I was here in Armenia, and we started, our office was in my apartment. So as it's usual for the startups, the founding engineers were from university, from academy where I was doing my PhD. So guys are sitting here in this audience as well. And we just started to code. And then we say, okay, that the table in our house is not enough anymore. We need a new space, and we go to already rented the office here, and And then when we found the product market fit, the things become to speed very fast. And both in Armenia and in United States, and in recent 2 years, it's just crazy. We started to hire globally. We're now starting to build teams, both not only engineering, it's already a big business unit. We have hired around 25 people in United States just from starting of the year. So and I think that's the thing, and in these 6 years we started in a very startup-ish thing, from small idea, and now from the just productivity in the email, and now our mission is to automate repetitive tasks for knowledge workers, and what we want to bring 1 hour back daily to 1 billion people. So that's the thing that we are working on now.
Okay. No, that's really cool. Sona, and I guess I remember the idea stage of what you are doing now. Maybe you can also reflect a bit what you are doing now, just for the people to get the context, because I guess mainly people know what these 3 companies are doing here. And then also how did you start it?
So at Civic, we are optimizing the operations of industrial assets like wind turbines, the huge industrial equipment that rotate and generate electricity from the wind. We do it mostly for the Northern Europe, Western Europe, where there is a huge potential in wind energy, and they have an agenda to minimize their investments in coal and nuclear and produce clean energy. This is what they have on the agenda, and this is what we are doing with our software that we develop locally from Armenia and from Copenhagen. So we are a bunch of engineers, again, apart from me, and a few colleagues who are into marketing and commercial side, who are trying to understand the main challenges in the operations of these industrial assets, quite complex. And we try to collect the data in a way that is useful and easy for the data scientists to generate some predictive models and predict failures on industrial equipment before they happen. And you mentioned that you're saving a life of a lawyer, an hour from a daily life of a lawyer with your tool. I think it's very inspirational. I love tools that optimize my time management and save me some time I can spend with people who I love. What we do is we actually save millions of euros in operational business of these turbines, which at the end of the day affects on the unit cost of producing clean energy. So what we do eventually contributes to having a low-cost clean energy for our planet. And yeah, this is what we do. How we started. My story is a little bit similar, I guess. I was writing my master's thesis at Vestas, which is a company who produces the biggest wind turbines in the world. And I think at that particular time we also met. The thesis was about how we can use machine learning algorithms and some econometric tools to try to predict service costs. And that was quite successful. And we, after my thesis, we implemented its learnings in different service units. And the vice president of the company once just suggested me to open a startup together where we could do it as just our business and not just an initiative within a huge company. Yeah, the idea was that we will have a product which R&D will be based in Armenia. And this is how we started. We started, of course, in Copenhagen. I got to know you. I think you helped me a little bit, or actually a lot, to understand what it takes to hire talent in Armenia. It's a huge investment you need to do. It's something you need to take care of on a daily basis. Be really present in Armenia, work with the team every day, solve problems together. And this is how you actually generate the interest and motivation and build up a team, not just few engineers who can work together on a product, but a team who follows the same passion, has the same KPI that you have.
Oh yeah, definitely. Passion has a lot to do with startups. Okay, Yeva, and also please tell us your story. How did you start working on SoulLearn, or what became SoulLearn eventually?
Right. Yeah. So it's usually a combination of stories that lead to a company that you build eventually. So I think it all starts from the childhood. I grew up in a family of university professors who turned entrepreneurs. So there was something about learning and entrepreneurship like early in my life that I didn't realize, until I grew up. But back in 2010, I had this big shift in career when I came into tech to build a startup accelerator. So many of you probably remember, or maybe it was too long ago, but we built a Microsoft Innovation Center in Armenia. And to pay for our acceleration passion, we established a bootcamp on the side. Like the term bootcamp was unknown then, we called it an internship program, but top tech companies in Armenia hired people from us. So we were experimenting with these 30 different ideas in the acceleration world, but to pay for it, we would basically train people to become coders for the top companies in Armenia. And the impact we were having was so basically inspiring in a way that we kept scaling the program, but at some point we just realized, we cannot scale an in-person learning infinitely. So we built this app, which was very different from what SoulLearn is today, that would teach people coding skills. We would teach some other skills as well at the time. And yeah, so basically that's where the founding team met, and I think that's what has resulted to the SoulLearn of today, which for those who don't know, we're a platform that teaches people how to code so they can get better jobs, they can land their first jobs or stay in the current jobs, because today it's not only coders that need to code, it's many non-coding professions that are more and more required to have some, at least the basic understanding of coding and be able just to look up your own data, be it in marketing or finance. And our big differentiators are we make code learning easy, because there is this perception that code learning is super hard and doing anything well is super hard, but learning the basics is not. And the second aspect that differentiates us is the social aspect of learning. So we have a very, very active community of learners who help each other and who basically hang out with each other. So we think of SoulLearn as a virtual classroom on any device, anytime you need to learn something new. So.
Okay, perfect. This how usually many companies start, right? So you start solving your problem and. Okay, perfect. So the next question would be, okay, so as the companies scale, as they evolve, eventually you then find out yourself kind of in the same company, but building different organizations at different stages with different challenges and goals, right? And luckily there are people outside of the organization, and especially in early stage, who can also help with advice, with some wisdom, the practical wisdom they can bring. So those are usually people who join as mentors, advisors, some investors are also very helpful in that regard. So I'd like to, for you to talk how important was the role of mentor advisor for you, or maybe it was a startup program. So something that in early days, especially in early days, brought this experience, this wisdom into what you were doing. So let's start with Georg at this time, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a great question, and definitely from the very first days, yeah, no, we were working with our mentors, advisors. At first it was, for example, the guys who were of our early VCs, for example, from the one-way ventures, for example, Eugene Malabrodsky. So he helped us a lot in his advices in scaling and in each different place, so that they passed the phase from one people to a few hundreds and $1 billion company, and he has a good advice for every stage, and he's the first guy that we take advice or like what are the first like strategic hires for growth. And this was like a super important part because you need to make sure that you're hiring people who will offload you and who will offload your team, but also they will be capable to scale. And that's very important because sometimes you are hiring people who are capable of scale, but they are not offloading you. And and to find that good balance, it is a very important thing that I was told to pay attention on, and that works for sure.
Okay, cool. So what was your story? Like, who were the first maybe mentors, advisors, how they help?
I think as a leadership, we didn't really have any mentors. We didn't have a board of advisors. We still don't. What we believe in, the inspiration we can get from the specialists we are hiring. So, of course, we started with specialists and seniors when we set up the team, according to your advice. So maybe informally you are one of our advisors. And the idea is to let people experiment with the experience they have to train, to convey and transfer their knowledge, their expertise, and train their colleagues the way that they would thought is the best way to be trained. You know, at Civit we have a number of internship programs, and we have interns joining us directly from even high school, and one of them, Gore, is even here. He's 16 years old. And what we are trying to provide with, or our mentors and supervisors are trying to provide with, is what is really that I would like to have when I was 16? What advice would I seek when I was 16 and I would join a company? So mentorship and supervisory happens very much within Civit than it seeks to get from the outside. And we try to get inspired by each other while listening what we could improve using the resources we have internally, because every new colleague that joins, they bring their experience, right, from the outside world, and they have something that we do not have internally. And by making a room for bringing in that difference into the team and teaching the rest, or inviting the rest to learn from it, is actually our model of the supervision. Of course, we have really harsh processes we try to follow, but those processes are not written in stone. They are open for optimizations, improvements, and so on. And when a new senior specialist joins, we're asking, okay, what would you optimize in this process? How would you see it change? What do you think would improve our productivity and so on? So the short answer is the advice comes from within, and for now it works.
Yeah, actually you are like one of very few lucky companies that had all that experience, that expertise, and didn't need any advice like from external sources. Like, lucky you, actually. Okay, Yeva, and what's about you? Like, who were the mentors, advisors, or programs that really helped you boosted you in early days, like brought this external like wisdom?
Yeah, so building a global company out of Armenia or any other like small country in the world is hard. And in my opinion, the biggest challenge is you don't know who you are, you don't know how good or bad you are, you don't know what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. So we have been very lucky to have a very broad network of advisors and networks from day one. And that helps you not only validate the idea and get access to some technical expertise, it also helps you to validate who you are and like what you have to work on and how to basically like, because to build a company, it's not only the area expertise. A lot of it is about your ability to grow and your ability to be the best in the world, right? At least in what you do. So there is that part, I think, for any startup that is built outside like the main tech hubs, although I don't know what main tech hubs are anymore because the world is changing so fast. And the second thing is there is a lot of great talent in Armenia, but we don't have a lot of experience in Armenia. So getting advisors and mentors in early days, and then later on, like hiring globally, like helps you a lot, basically bring that expertise in-house, because it's much faster when somebody who has done it before does things versus we will figure it out, but it will take us much, much longer. And you know, time is the most precious thing startups have. It's more precious than money. So yeah, just finding the shortcuts and getting to places faster, I think is key.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for the answer. And David?
Yeah. Well, I think advisors are extremely important for any startup. Like in general, I would say that, you know, as a founding team, you need to try to have as many advisors as possible. It doesn't mean that you can manage them properly. I mean, it's managing advisors is not easy, right? But in general, I think today we have probably like 5-6 advisors. I mean, at the stage that we are, maybe we should have even more advisors. And early days, the way it would work, most of the time I would work with advisors, so it would be someone that, you know, like would advise on the business. Yeah, that was the premise, like in the early days. But as we grew, we started to understand that, look, as a team, like we are over 150 people now, and one of the things that you should do as you grow is to grow your leaders, right? Leaders in the company. And you probably always don't have access to like the best leaders that you can bring to the company, because you're a tiny company and it's hard to bring these people. So in many times, like in our case, we were in a situation that we had very strong people internally, but they didn't have much experience, right? Dealing with, you know, this pace, this growth and so on. So we understood that we need to help them grow as we were growing as founders. We need to enable them, empower them, grow as well, which can be done through advisors as well. So, right? I don't think like every department has an external advisor today at Crisp, but that's basically the idea, right? Like I'm in a process right now to bring advisor who is gonna help our head of product, right? So this person used to work at Google, Facebook, and is awesome. Like he has so much experience that he can bring to the company as an advisor and help our product team to shape. Same with, like, we just recently hired an advisor that is helping with the growth team. So she's one of the best in the world, and you know, like the help that they provide is just enormous, right? We have an advisor that is the chief revenue officer of Twilio. So this person is responsible for $2 billion revenue every year, and he's helping us with advice. Maybe a bit, we are way premature for that advice probably, but still, like, so these people have played super important role in our growth, and I know that as we grow, we're gonna have more advisors. Yeah, that's what I would recommend to every startup, right? Like, don't go for like 10 advisors, but keep in mind that like they can just give you the shortcuts. It's not magical, of course. Every startup is different, but as a founder, you need to basically be able to bring such people, advisors, and then work with them so that you sort of tailor their advice to your particular startup's needs, right? It's a hard process. It's not easy, but it has been super valuable for Crisp.
Perfect. Thank you. This was like very insightful. Thank you. So you started with advisors because you can't afford hiring these people. Now they join you as advisors. So these are the early days, and then you grow. Like you become like more than 30 people, 50 people, and now the time matures for you to bring in the first external leader. not someone who grew from inside, right? So the first person to be in your executive suite, who is like external hire. Okay, so how, if you had this experience like in your journey, how did you approach it? So let's start with Sona.
Yes, our CTO was the first external member of the leadership board, basically, who we hired. Frederick, I don't know if he's listening to us via the live stream. Hi, Frederick. Frederick had a background in IT. Basically, he was an IT architect, and while me and the main founder were coming to this IT business from the business side, from understanding what the wind energy is all about, it was extremely important for us to have someone who actually knows what a software is and how to build it. And at the beginning, of course, it takes a lot of dedicated efforts to onboard an external into the tiny little details and the overall picture of what is this business niche and how we should solve the problems in our way and how the technology can help us do that, and really listen to it instead of just saying, oh, this is what we want. How do you help us? Not really listen to what is the best practice, what is his experience telling, and try to go with it and really believe in the person's ability to bring value in your team, even if he has nothing, like there is no experience in his professional background or academic background that is closely related to what you do. Really believe in someone you are bringing in, give him all the flexibility and freedom and all the tools that they need to bring the change that you need, right? So it's the infinite flexibility and freedom that you need to give to the person, a lot of time that you need to spend with the person to explain what the business is about, what the industry is about, and what the specific of your company culture is, to really let them be inspired by it and bring all the knowledge they can.
Let me add one more sub-question to this larger question. So, and how do you find usually these people? Is there a secret sauce, or is just it's not like posting a job announcement?
No,
right?
no,
So
it never is. It never is. I think it was a conference in Copenhagen, organized or supported by Microsoft about the serverless infrastructure. We were attending, and Fredrik was giving a speech, and it wasn't like I understood everything about serverless infrastructure on the cloud, but I was maybe attracted with how practical he made his presentation on how to use the advantages of it in service, software as a service businesses. So, and then you approach it, you do your networking, and there is a click. It's never the job ad, really.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeva, so what was also your experience? How did you find the first person, like who joined you from outside as an executive in your company? How did you find and how did you onboard? What was important in that process?
Yeah, the first hire, international hire, especially, it's challenging because, at least like in my case, when I started to hire, I wasn't very clear on what I'm looking for. So I knew I want someone who can help me run a global company moving forward, but my specs and my expectations weren't clearly set up, because when you just start hiring, you don't know what is available. And when you don't know what is available, it's really hard, to put it on paper. So I have interviewed for the first role for a long period of time. But I was extremely lucky, I think, because that person is still with the company. Caroline, she's our COO, and she's absolutely awesome. And she was the person I needed because she can take care of operations. She runs our talent operations worldwide today, and many other things that CEOs do. The biggest challenge when there are we were around 30, 40 people at a time in Armenia, is when there are 40 Armenians and just one American joins the team. So how do you integrate them, and how do you make that person feel have that sense of belonging, and how do you make sure people start speaking in English, for example? That's a big shift for an Armenian company, right? So, but again, I think it was luck as well, because Caroline was very open to challenge as well as we were. So it worked out really well. I can't say we had processes in place at a time, like all of that was built like long after. It was more like we just found this person that was a perfect match, and she just integrated into our culture, and like we've been growing the company together since then.
Perfect, thank you. And David, what's your experience?
Oh yeah, so for us, finding the right, I mean, the first sort of executive out of Armenia. So it was an interesting story. So we went through Berkeley Skytech Accelerator, right, as part of our journey, and like after graduating from the accelerator, a couple months later, I got a message from Skytech saying that, hey, there is a person who has a lot of experience in noise cancellation space. So that was Robert, and apparently Robert was, before, a couple years ago, he was working at a company which was producing world's first noise cancellation chips and selling it to Samsung and Apple, in iPhones. And Robert was responsible for those sales and marketing, okay? And he wanted to talk to us because, like he heard about, Crisp and so on. Like in my first conversation